Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me today, and welcome to my podcast entitled From Corporate to Community, A Tale of Two Realities. This is a 6-part blog series that I've written about my experience moving from corporate space to working for a community-based organization that is supportiveliving.ca. I'm so excited to share my story with you, but let me introduce myself before we begin. My name is Shama Chaudhry, that's me, and I've worked for corporate Canada for most of my life. I'm a published author and an international bestseller with my book, 365 Empowering Stories, that was released in October 2019. I'm working on my first fiction novel, which I'm hoping to publish this year. So, are you ready to learn more about my transformative journey? Well, let's start from the beginning with part 1 I call Corporate Strife. It was September 2016. I sat at my cubicle, staring at my computer, the cursor blinking back at me. I woke up that morning in complete dread of my routine. The commute, 100 unread emails, and looming deadlines. After 15 years, my heart just wasn't in it anymore. The ambition for climbing the corporate ladder had diminished many years ago when our small family-like business was acquired by a conglomerate organization. I was a small fish in a big pond, suddenly bobbing up for air. We were now directly reporting to corporate. Everything had changed. My job, managers, team, even the place where I used to sit for over 6 years. Back then I had a window, even though it faced another concrete building. And when the sun would go down and I was working late, I looked through my reflection, straining to see if someone like me was slowly burning out in the corporate rat race to the top. I went home every night, utterly exhausted, scarfing down a fast food meal I'd picked up on the way home, only to open up my laptop again and burn the midnight oil. And then to start all over again the next day without reprieve. I looked up that proverbial ladder and realized the further I stepped up, the more I felt suffocated, like climbing a mountain where the air got thinner the higher you climbed. Politics, bureaucracy, gossip. Sure, it existed everywhere. The culture became one that when you reached one accolade, the bar was raised higher and higher, with no recognition to the work and hours I was putting in. Was this my lot in life? I fell into business world by accident. Married young with 3 small children and armed with a degree in English literature, I entered the job market without a clue of a career or ambition. All I knew was that I wanted to write. My marketing positions afforded me the opportunity to write business content, but this was not my passion. In high school, I wrote creative stories in my leisure time, culminating into the decision of switching majors from sociology to English in university. The seed was planted then to somehow help people. I kind of knew the why, but not the how. A few years back, I was encouraged by my manager to start blogging personal stories, which helped unleash my creative side amidst writing content for my company. My blog posts morphed into long chapters, and then upon advice from my followers, I started writing my first fiction novel. But that's another story in itself. Fast forward to January 2017. After coming back from a business trip in Asia, I remember our plane sitting on the tarmac in Hong Kong, watching the ground workers load our luggage while there was a downpour. And as I sat in my window seat watching, my own tears competed with the rain as I contemplated my work life when I went back home to Toronto. Upon my return and after 2 weeks, I was spiraling. I fell off the corporate mountain and nosedived into an abyss of the unknown. I took a leave of absence that was riddled with angst, deep dissatisfaction, and anxiety. I would spend the next 2 years in complete mental anguish, trying to find me. I began to write daily in my journal, which proved to be a cathartic method of releasing years of pent-up stress. I lost track of who I was, what my purpose in life, and how I was to find my way back up that mountain. But this time, it needed to be a mountain of my own making. I woke up one morning and the memory of sitting at my cubicle with the cursor blinking on my computer gnawed away at me. And then I had an epiphany. The cursor was in fact winking at me. It was a cliched example of writer's block, where an author would sit in front of a blank screen or a white piece of paper, pen in hand, waiting to write the story of their life and not knowing when to start. It was then I realized I could become the creator of my own story, a new life, one where I found purpose, meaning. Who was I actually serving up until now? In a moment of true unhappiness, I understood why I started my blog. To share a story, a message that could resonate with my audience and perhaps help one person. When I fell off the corporate mountain, a community of people banded together to help pick me up. And after years of servicing shareholders, I wanted to give back to the community that held me and my family together for so many years. But how could I get to this point? I chose not to return to work after my leave and effectively pushed myself off the cliff instead of falling from it. And this is when I began to soar to a new mountain and magnificent heights. It was a mountain that was built hand in hand with the community. Finally, I found my calling, where I could use my words to empower those who have no voice, to help lift them up by ensuring they have access to basic human needs, shelter, food, medicine, and most of all, love and support. That's when I decided to leave corporate for community, to experience a new reality, to unearth what was buried deep, those who've been turned away with a blind eye, to bring their struggles to the surface in plain sight. It's easy to leave them behind in our own worldly pursuits. The homeless, the mentally ill, the forgotten ones. Thank you for listening to part 1, Corporate Strife. And join me next week for part 2, Community Train, where I will talk about what I saw from the peak of my new mountain. Be well and stay well.